much for joining us.
Thank
Rick
you.
Fisher, you're the program developer. Is that the right title for you?
Yes. So previously the program developer and currently the Spanish programs director. So I actually wrote and created the Spanish Wine Scholar program, started the project back in 2018 and basically spent a full year writing the program.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you to start with, actually, because I've got the book in front of me, my slightly well-thumbed copy. How did you manage to get it down to the content it is? Because it's a fairly weighty book, and I can imagine that it could have been triple the size if you had wanted it to be. So kind of how did you squish Spain into this book?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Victoria. I mean, it could have been much larger, and there's a lot of material that was left in other folders on my computer that never made it into the manual. I think a lot of times people don't realize the wealth and the breadth of information that there is available, for Spain and the wines of Spain in particular. One of the things is that a lot of people just, when they think of Spain, all they think of is Rioja or sherry, and that's it. And Spain is so much more than that. It is really about regions like Galicia, which are coming in, are gaining so much popularity. The wealth of regions in Catalonia, and the wine in Catalonia in particular, which is off the charts, and then all other parts of Spain as well. So I think that trying to create a program like this and put everything, make it manageable for people. Part of the reason that I wrote the manual the way that I did was to create it as a reference guide, not just, a book about places to visit in Spain, because you can find books like that. This is really a way to dive deep into the regions of Spain. Every wine region in Spain is covered in the manual, some in more depth than others, just based on the fact that there's a little bit more information about them out there, but they also hold a little bit more cachet in the Spanish wine world.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's just the amount of times I have used it and just delved back in to try and get, one little fact or bit about that region. So it is a really good book from that point of view. So just a bit about you, Rick. So why Spain? I know you're passionate about Spain, but where did all that start from? How did that come about?
So my grandfather was Catalan, born in Barcelona, and all of my mom's side of the family is from Spain, and so I think there's always been a little bit of that, in my, it's in my background, it's in my blood. But as far back as I can remember, Spain was always kind of at the forefront for me. And so when I started to really gain an interest in wine, later in my life, I was actually a career banker prior to coming into doing this. Spain was always kind of like there for me. And for about 10 years, I was writing a blog on Spanish food and wine and travel. And then everything just really the passion just continued to grow. And, for me now, I eat, breathe, live, drink Spain. It is pretty much it for me. And I will go toe to toe with anybody for any other country that Spain has some of the best wines in the world.
Okay, so that I agree with you. I don't have to be sold Spain. So I think you'd agree with me that this course is very much for a professional wine, sort of somebody already in the industry, as much as it is for just the enthusiast who wants to just really get immersed in Spain. But that was going to be my next question. Why Spain? Why should somebody who's just starting out in the world of wine consider Spain to be the country that they should really immerse themselves in? What is it that country offers that no other country can do?
I would probably simply reply, why not? But that's not going to be sufficient. But I think that, Spain is one of the top 3 wine producing countries in the world. It is the country that has the largest land under vine than any other country in the world, even ahead of France and Italy. And I think that a lot of times what happens is people always think, French wine, has always been kind of like in the forefront for people. And one of the things about Spanish wine is it's always kind of like the quiet person in the back of the room. They have so much to say, but they just don't talk about it. And so, for me, I think that starting with Spain gives you a really good foundation to understand European wine And the appellation system and the wine law system is truly one of the less complicated ones. So, when you're looking at regions, when you're looking at Italy or you're looking at France, the complications just continue to, compound on top of each other. That's not true with Spain. Spain has a fairly simple wine law system. There are a little bit of, deviations in there, but for the most part, to understand a lot of the grapes that people drink that they love from France are actually Spanish grapes. Garnacha, which is Grenache. You've got Monastrell, which is Mourvedre. So you do have a lot of Spain is really truly, I think a great place to start and to really build your passion for European wines in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. One of the things I particularly loved about this book is it's not just about wine. We've got history, we've got geography, there's cultural anecdotes, there's loads about food and wine and cultural history and things like that. I wondered if there was kind of one standout Spanish, because the Spanish absolutely love their slightly bonkers cultural things that go on. So is there one in particular that you would say that is the weirdest, most amazing kind of cultural experience I've either seen or heard of?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Victoria. The book is actually quite full of many of these what we would call odd traditions, but it's part of what really makes the course fun, is that it is about wine, and really that is the the forefront of what we're trying to do. But food and culture are inexplicably interrelated when it comes to wine, especially in Spain. Everything revolves around all three of those. Now, if I were going to choose one, there are a couple that come to mind, but given the nature of this, I'm going to tame it down a little bit. I would say, for me, one of the most fascinating one is Las Fallas, which happens on the central Mediterranean coast. And basically what happens is every year they build these absolutely gorgeous, they're basically works of art, and they, there's like statues, and they walk them through the city, and they have like a week-long celebration, and then they choose a winner, and at the end of the event they all get burned. And so for an entire year's worth of work that goes into these things, and then to see them burn, it's like I saw a documentary on this, and you just see people weeping over this, and I mean, they're tears of joy because it's part of the tradition. But there are crazy things like the running of the bulls. There's throwing tomato, el buñuel, they throw the tomatoes at each other. You've got amazing little stories that are kind of woven through the fabric of this manual too, that you'll learn about.
Yeah, and it really brings the country to life. It's just so much fun reading about it. It's brilliant. So I'm going to be a bit mean now, Rick. Spain is massively diverse in terms of its regions. We've got the cool north, really, really hot plains of the south. Where's your favorite place to go in Spain? We only need one.
That was mean. That was mean, Victoria. I would have to say the answer to this question changes from time to time. And I would have to say right now, for me, it is Catalonia. I just think that the diversity of wine in Catalonia is amazing. You've got these gorgeous, red wines, a lot of blends. You've got, varietal wines. You have really nice, you've got great sparkling wines. You've got fresh, high acid white wines. It really kind of is, if you're looking for one region in Spain, that's where you're going to find it all. But I would be remiss if I didn't say there were amazing, like in Galicia, for example, some of the more unique type of regions that are gaining, like I said, in popularity. They're becoming the wines that everybody is seeking out, whether it's Mencia or Godello or Albarino. Some of these wines that before nobody knew about, and now they've kind of, producers are bringing them back virtually from the dead. And they they're all over wine lists now and those kinds of things. So it is a very difficult question. I would ask you the same question, but I know that you would probably give a similar answer, that it's a very difficult one to
It is really hard. I wouldn't be able to name. Well, I used to live in Granada in the south, so that would be my choice, just from memories of being there. And then final question, Rick, which is even meaner. Money is no object. Favorite bottle of wine ever from Spain?
Oh boy. Again, this changes, but this has been the same for me for a few years now. And I would have to say it is the Lopez de Heredia Vino Rosado from Rioja. Now, this, for those of you who know Lopez de Heredia, this is one of, Rioja and Spain's iconic producers, very, very traditional, very old. But what I find fascinating about this particular wine is that it's an aged rosé, and that it typically it's not released. It's usually about 10 years before it gets released. And so to have a rosé wine that is released 10 years after the harvest is absolutely amazing to me. And the wine is spectacular. It's got beautifully fresh acidity, incredibly well integrated fruit. And, you pick up, because it is aged in barrel as well, a lot. I mean, it's just a very complex wine. And, for it, I don't think when you're talking about Spanish wine, a wine has to be expensive. I mean, you look at other countries and everybody's like, well, what's the most expensive one? That's the best one I ever had. That's not true with Spain. There are absolutely amazing wines that are quite accessible, and you don't have to be, you don't have to be a billionaire to be able to buy, a few bottles of it. It is just, so for me, it's another reason why I think Spain and why I study Spain is that the wines are much more accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick, thank you so much for your time. That was a really great insight into both you, Spain, and the course. And hopefully we'll get lots of people signing up shortly, because it really is a great experience. I think you'd agree with that. Taking the course really is, it's just an unbelievable journey into Spain.
Thanks, Victoria. And I wish, please sign up, folks. I tell you, you will not be sorry by signing up for this course. It will just grow your passion. If you have one for Spain, if not, it'll light a fire, and you will want to drink more Spanish wine and to visit the country as well. So thanks for having me, Victoria.